Hello friends, in today's session we are going to discuss the case of Mr. P.G.H. Patil or Mr. P.H. Patil versus Mr.R.S.Patil and others. First, let us briefly understand this case. In this case, the plaintiff P.H. Patil filed a suit in 1942 against the defendant for possession of a house. A decree was passed in favor of the plaintiff in 1944, which was later upheld by the Supreme Court. When the plaintiff applied the execution of the decree, the defendant opposed it. In response, the plaintiff filed an application under Order 21 Rule 97 of the CPC, but it was dismissed. Later, P.H. Patil filed a suit under Order 21 Rule 103 seeking a declaration of his right to possession of the disputed property. During the trial, the plaintiff applied for an amendment to the plaint. However, the defendant objected, arguing that the amendment was filed after the prescribed time limit and that it introduced a new case. The trial court dismissed the suit, but the High Court allowed the appeal and permitted the amendment. The Supreme Court held that an amendment should be allowed if it is not unjust to the other party and is necessary for resolving the real issue in dispute. The court further stated that an amendment should not introduce a completely new case. Based on these principles, the appeal was dismissed. Now let us study this case in detail. Answer: Parigonda, Hongonda, Patil, Respondent versus Kalgonda, Shidgonda, Patil and others. Plaintiffs. Reference AIR 1957 SC 363. Case background. This case is based on Order 6 Rule 17 of the Civil Procedure Code CPC, which pertains to amendments in pleadings. The court clarified that if an amendment is necessary for justice and based on valid reason, it may be allowed. Facts of the case. In 1942, the original plaintiff filed a suit against defendant number 3 to gain possession of a house. A decree was passed in favor of the plaintiff on March 28, 1944, and it was upheld by the Supreme Court. Point 2. The original plaintiff applied for the execution of the decree, which was opposed by defendant number 1, the appellant. To counter this opposition, the plaintiff filed an application under Order 21 Rule 97 of the CPC, which was dismissed. Point 3. Respondent number 1 and 2 were the legal heirs of the original plaintiff, while respondent number 3 was defendant number 2 in the pleadings and respondent number 1 was defendant number 1 in the original case. Trial court decision. The appellant filed a suit under Order 21 Rule 103 of the CPC seeking a declaration that the plaintiff had a right to possession of the disputed property against defendant number 1. Defendant number 1 contested that the suit and raised the preliminary issue whether the suit against defendant number 1 is maintainable. During the trial, the original plaintiff sought to amend the plaint, but defendant number 1 opposed the amendment request. The trial court civil judge dismissed the suit, stating that the plaintiff did not disclose any valid cause of action against defendant number 1. High Court decision. The plaintiff appealed against the trial court decision before the Bombay High Court. The High Court allowed the appeal and permitted the amendment of the plaint, imposing a certain cost on the plaintiff. Arguments of the appellant. The appellant presented the following two main arguments. Point 1. The amendment application was filed after the prescribed limitation period had expired. Point 2. A defect of such nature in the plaint cannot be rectified through amendment. The appellant argued that under Order 26 Rule 103 of the CPC, a suit must be filed within 1 year from the date of the order passed under Order 21 Rule 97. In this case, the relevant order was passed on April 12, 1947. The suit was filed on March 12, 1948. However, the amendment application was submitted on November 20, 1948 after the limitation period had expired. Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court ruled that an amendment application should be allowed if it meets the following two conditions. Point A, the amendment should not cause injustice to the opposing party. Point B, the amendment should be necessary for resolving the real issue in dispute. The court observed that the proposed amendment in this case did not introduce a new case based on the arguments and a legal principle. The appeal was dismissed with cause. Legal principles established by the court. Point 1. Condition for accepting an amendment application. Point A. The amendment should not cause injustice or unfair harm to the opposing party. Point B. The amendment should be necessary to resolve the actual disputes between the parties. Point 2. Conditions for rejecting an amendment application. Point A. If the amendment introduces a completely new case. Point B. If the opposing party cannot be compensated adequately for any disadvantage caused by the amendment. Please watch full video, share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.